Hey guys, Poro here with another Worlds 2025 team breakdown, this time for MKOI from the LEC. MKOI is a Spanish organization, and they take pride in it as they field a roster of primarily Spanish players. When they first came into the scene in 2024, it was a hotly debated topic whether the roster with 4 rookies on it would perform well, and longtime LEC viewers felt that other players who had proven themselves were being snubbed. However, in those 2 years, the core of the team that people were skeptical about at first has consistently improved, and now they are easy contenders in any split they play. Their first year wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. After a good split 1, their split 2 and 3 were pretty bad, and people were upset they automatically qualified to play in season finals despite their prior placements. Despite this, they would finish 3rd and scrape into Worlds where they would be shut out in embarrassing fashion by losing to GAM and Swiss. The main underperformer was their mid laner Frescawi, who apart from randomly solo killing Caps, never held up at the LEC level and was due to be replaced. For 2025, MKOI would make the exciting announcement to sign an NA import, young talent Jojo Pune, who was known for his laning skills and carry potential. I loved this change and thought Jojo was just the type of mid laner MKOI needed to make their roster click. The team in 2025 have performed very well, and they even won Spring to be the 1 seed at MSI, where they would play a fairly impressive series against BLG before being taken out by CFO. In summer, they clearly proved themselves to be a top 2 team, and the gap between them and Fnatic is definitely noticeable. I think there is definitely potential for this team to do well at Worlds, so let's get into it. Merwin is their top laner, and in 2024, as well as the first half of 2025, he had a unique style where he specialized in ranged top laners. He frequently tried picks like Jace, Nidalee, Kennen, Karma, Varus, and Nico top, and used these champions to try and win lane. For a while, I thought MKOI were not properly utilizing his champion pool in draft, and I was hoping either he would change his pool to match the team, or the team would change their playstyle to match him. In Split 3, MKOI did decide to go with one of those, and they picked Merwin meshing with the team. He's been playing a lot more standard picks like Cassante, Gwen, and Mbessa, and has mostly ditched the crazy ranged counter picks. I think this has its advantages and disadvantages. For Merwin, I always thought he was one of the weaker players on the team, and if he wasn't on a ranged champion, then he could only pilot maybe 3 champions. This was especially an issue because the only tank I felt he could play well was Cassante, but we're now in a meta where Cassante isn't that strong anymore, meaning Merwin was just picking suboptimal champions. He's actually improved on this front for Split 3, and he's added picks like Sion, Ornn, and Yorick to his champion pool to be reasonable options. With these picks, MKOI can spend a lot more time learning how to increase their team synergy and improve their overall fundamentals, which is good. Sadly though, I think this does take away some of the X factor this team had, as they've ditched one of their interesting strategies that have won them some important games in the past. I don't mind the direction they've gone in with Merwin, I just think it's a little sad from a creative angle. For Merwin, I don't think he's a top tier player at this tournament, but I also think he's brushed up enough on his fundamentals that he won't be a sore spot for the team the way he was at Worlds last year. Elyoya is the captain of this team and is also their best player. Skewmond is having a great Split 3, but I think there's definitely a strong argument to make that Elyoya has been the best performing jungler for the year of 2025. He is a player who's always been hovering around the top of the LEC's talent since 2021, and he has some facets to his game I would consider elite. I think Elyoya is the best early game player in the entire West right now. Even in MKOI's losses, it feels like they always have a lead early, and it's because Elyoya is great at finding good gank angles and dives. It feels like he can always pull off at least 1 or 2 good early plays in every game, as if he just has the magic touch before 10 minutes. Another point to mention that I brought up in my MSI breakdown is that this is the perfect meta for Elyoya. He's always been best at AD Fighter Bruiser champions, and the meta for Worlds is going to be a Fighter Bruiser meta. I expect Elyoya to be very comfortable at this tournament, and I wouldn't be surprised if he could go toe-to-toe with the Eastern junglers as well. Jojo Pune has been basically exactly as advertised. He has very good mechanics for Western standards, his laning is strong, and his ceiling is really high. It feels like he's been handling the Fearless format super well, as he's proficient at every meta mage, and he's always got some fun picks up his sleeve for pinched drafts such as Kassadin, Ziggs, and Yone. Jojo is the type of player where if you get him leads and put resources in his basket, he can carry the game, which is not a quality all mid laners have. He was outclassed by Caps both times MKOI went up against G2, but that said, Caps has also been on a mission this split, so I can't really blame him too harshly. Overall, I think we can expect some good things from Jojo, and he's a clear strength for this team. In 2024, I was not impressed by Supa. I thought he was a player who was passive at the wrong times, too aggressive at other times, and overall just a very unimpressive laner. I went into 2025 thinking it would be more of the same, but Supa has made big leaps in his progress as the year has gone on. I think it would be safe to say that Supa is currently a top 2 bot laner in LEC, and he also has a good argument for being the best performing bot laner this year overall. The main quality about Supa I think has improved is that he's no longer a player who can't be trusted with resources. If you get Supa a lead, he's turned into a consistent player who will turn his lead into a win without overplaying his hand. Obviously, Supa is not near the level Viper is at, but I complimented Viper for something very similar in my HLE breakdown, and I think Supa could definitely be viewed as a player with the same strengths. I think there's a good chance Supa can show up big at Worlds, and he's definitely become a player who can handle any bot duo if he's playing at his best. Among the core of this team that debuted in 2024, Alvaro has been the one player who I think had signs of elite potential straight away. He has weaknesses to his game, such as a tendency to die on bad timers sometimes, and he also has facets of his game that are just good but not great, like his skill on range supports or his flanking and spacing ability. When it comes to the universal skill of engaging a teamfight head-on though, nobody in the West does it better than Alvaro. He has a fantastic eye for when to go in and who to go in on, and he rarely hesitates to pull the trigger even when MKOI are behind. Alvaro has been the player who leads most of MKOI's comebacks if they are ever losing, and he's also the player who breaks open the game if it's an even contest. Alvaro's ability to engage is up there with the best of the best, and we've seen countless instances domestically and internationally where he seems to find a winning play in the most dire of situations. Alvaro will probably do great at Worlds, and he and Supa could very easily be the best performing Western bot duo at the tournament. I think MKOI are going to be a pretty scary team to go up against in Swiss. They probably don't have the ceiling to take down the more polished top tier teams, but I could see them upsetting some of the more flawed ones like Top Esports or KT, and any of the Western teams should want to avoid them at all costs. The reason why is because MKOI have turned into a team with a solid foundation of skills that raise their floor higher than many other teams. While in the past I could point to weak spots like Merwin or Supa's mistakes, or Frescowi just not being an international level player, the weaknesses have closed up and everyone individually on the team is pretty solid now. MKOI is not a team who will break against worst opponents, and they're also a team who's focused and clean enough to punish mistakes from those equal or better to them. Every single team at this tournament should fear MKOI's early game especially. Elyoya's ability to generate leads rivals any jungler in the world, and I wouldn't be surprised if MKOI can jump out to early leads against just about any team here. Once they have that lead, they aren't a team who's super prone to throw it all away at a moment's notice, so MKOI can only be defeated by a team who stays clean. In my MSI breakdown for the team, I was critical of their drafts. I thought in playoffs they lost the majority of their drafts, even in the series where they beat G2. This time around, I actually think their drafting has improved a bit. These days, I can tell what the team is really going for and which lanes they want to focus their resources towards, which is a good thing. They also have some fun meta reads of their own that other teams haven't gone for as much. As far as I can tell, MKOI is really the only team at this tournament who has the old school Tristana into Kai'Sa pick under their belt, which has worked wonders for them. Kai'Sa is obviously one of the strongest bot laners at the tournament and pairs well with any engaged champ including Nico, but her big weakness has always been her range and her lackluster damage until Q evolve, both of which make her lose lane pretty hard to the aggressive high damage Tristana. This is a counter we saw all the time in prior years, but Supa is the only player I've seen consistently do it this split. Overall, I think the biggest change that happened for MKOI is that they've finally settled into a direction they want to push their team towards, and that's playing primarily for the bot side of the map. When Frescowi was on the team, Merwin and Elyoya took on more of the carry responsibility, because their mid lane was a big hole that couldn't keep up, but that hole has disappeared with Jojo coming in. In Split 1 and 2, it felt like the team was trying to figure out how to properly acclimate with Jojo's laning skills, and it wasn't until Split 3 where I think they got it. Nowadays, Jojo and Supa take on the higher resource champions, and Merwin and Elyoya can take a step back and pilot some lower resource picks. This allows MKOI to be more flexible in their play, as they can go for those creative counter picks that Jojo and Supa like to do, and they actually have breathing room to make it work since Elyoya has a more clear direction to play for. I wasn't a huge believer in the roster for the first 5 splits they were together, but I've actually grown to quite like what they've put together now that everyone seems to know how they want to play, and I'll be excited for their Worlds matches. I think their floor, as mentioned before, is actually pretty high for a non-LCK LPL team, and I think MKOI will probably pick up at least 2 wins. I would be surprised to see them pick up the 3rd win and get to quarters, but it's also not out of the realm of possibility in my head either. I'm especially curious to see how MKOI will do against some Eastern teams. In the past, the West has been able to win early games against the East basically every year, but can never seem to put together a consistent enough mid-game to translate that lead into anything meaningful. MKOI is a team who might actually be able to get something done in that situation, and I want to see how high their ceiling really is. That's all I have for you for this one. 13 down, 4 to go. I recently started a Patreon for people who want to support me more while I'm making these videos. I have 3 tiers, each with varying amounts of benefits including different types of behind the scenes content, and even a custom Poro drawing that I'll display in video outros. If that interests you, check out the Patreon link in the description. I'll see you all for the next one. Bye!